Welcome to Make a Difference with Phil Martelli. He is Phil Martelli. I am Jared Phillips. The school year is officially underway. That means athletics are getting started. Students are back in the classroom. Teachers getting ready for an entire year's work of course loads and everything like that. There's a lot of excitement in the air that comes with that, whether it's extracurriculars, whether it's school, whether it's just getting to see your friends again. It's a great time of the year.
But I also think there's a lesson for all of us, whether you're in education or not in education. And I have this mindset that I present when I do my talks that I think that every day we should all strive to be students and we should all strive to be teachers. So I think at the end of your day, if you ask yourself, what have I learned? And then whom have I taught? Your eyes and your ears have got to be open to those situations where you can learn and situations where you can teach. Our guests today, we're going to talk to us about what they're learning, but also what they're teaching. And then they're going to bounce things off of each other where they're going to hopefully learn and they're going to teach all of us. I think the idea of every young person out there has it could be a concept to teach. It could be a feeling. It could be a way of looking at things so that the people who are in the teaching role, the CEO, the head of the department, eyes and ears open to situations for growth. That's what I'm really talking about. And I was writing and thinking and this is an oldie, of course, greatest love of all, but I believe that the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us of how it used to be. There's really something valuable for all of us. Teach and learn every day. In order to do that, eyes and ears open. Not just the classroom teacher, but the mentor, the coach, the CEO. Let's all continue to learn. I also, with this cold opening, have to give a heartfelt prayers and thoughts out to Jim Murray's family. Jim Murray, a lot of people know, is the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. He hired Dick Vermeil. He answered the call and started Ronald McDonald House here in Philadelphia. And now I think the number that I saw was there's 500 Ronald McDonald houses that aid children who need it, but it also their families. Jim Murray, I sent out a tweet on him, Mount Rushmore of Philadelphians. And here to be emulated, here's how he opened every phone call. After the greeting, he would say to you, how can I help? That's what we all have to do. And certainly there's a lot going on in the world, and we have to be there for each other. How can I help? So Jim Murray, rest in peace. You have made this area and this country and the Philadelphia Eagles organization better because you were here. Thank you. Now the Martelli Minute.
Terrific stuff. We have the Martelli Minute, of course, and three wonderful guests that I'm very excited to hear from.
Absolutely. The Martelli Minute. Where can you find it?
On Instagram every morning
6:30.
at 6:30 a.m. at Phil_Martelli.
Brought to you by Status Solutions. What's Status Solutions doing? Bringing safety technology to all schools in every community. We need Status Solutions, and Status Solutions needs you. A way for your schools to be safety proof that your students, your children, your loved ones will be safe. Remember, progress is much more attainable and realistic than perfection. People go out there and say, I want to get the perfect golf swing. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. But if you go out there with the mindset, I want to make progress, just like we want in the classroom, progress, not perfection, that is attainable. Work. Don't wish for what you want. Wishing, anybody can wish. The separator are those that work for what they are looking to gain. The Wizard of Oz was right? The Wizard of Oz was a great role in that he did his best work where? Behind the curtain. So basically, you don't have to be out there promoting your work. Get behind the curtain, get your work done, and then you will be seen as the wizard. So the Wizard of Oz was a great role in that he did his best work behind the curtain. Bet you didn't have Wizard of Oz on your bingo card.
No, I didn't think we were going to be talking Wizard of Oz here.
We're there,
the first couple minutes.
Accept that your future is more about you than fortune. Man, I hope it goes well. But you are in charge of your future. And take those steps rather than banking on good luck or occasional luck or a stroke of luck. Accept that your future is more about you than fortune. Each day is a gift. How you use it is your choice. So a lot of times at Christmas, you might get a gift and think, oh, I might never use that. But if you treat each day as that gift, now you make a choice. How are you going to use it? You're going to leave it in the box? You're going to leave it hanging in your closet? Or are you going to use it? It's your choice. Recognize that you are most successful for your success. All Martelli minutes. A lot of focus on us individually, being responsible, being accountable, just like Status Solutions has been accountable to make our schools safety, 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 safety. So the Martelli Minute, every day, 6:30. We get that to a teacher. She sends it out on Instagram. And it's just food for thought. That's all I want to do. I just want to create food for thought with the Martelli Minute. So I hope people are enjoying it. I hope they are accessing it. And I hope they are using it as like a study guide. What do we start with? Every day be a student. Every day be a teacher. All of us are responsible for that.
You could be a student and a teacher with the Martelli Minute. You learn a little bit from it and then teach someone else.
That's it.
That word of wisdom.
That's it. But how about this time of the year? And these guests for this time of the year. Every teacher out there, 1 year in, 15 years in, academies, public schools, high schools, grade schools. Every teacher out there digs into their closet at this time. They go in there and they get their plans. And you know what they're really looking for, though? They're looking for their superhero capes. And they get ready after they put on their cape to instruct, to mentor, to nurse, to counsel, to guide, to energize, to empathize, to discipline, to cajole, to parent, and it goes on and on and on. And we cannot go further. This will come out later. But in the past week, again, a deranged individual attacked children. But if you go back and you read through everything, the principal of that Annunciation school in Wisconsin said, my staff were heroes coming in, and they were heroic this day. Every single teacher out there is a hero. Absolutely is a hero. What I'm begging all of them to do is to make sure that you take care of yourself. Self-care is important. You can't be heroic to some young kid in the schoolyard or a kid that's falling behind in his work, or a star pupil, unless you take care of yourself. Please, all of our teachers, all of our teachers. So today's segment, we wanted three heroes. We wanted three heroes to present to us their journeys, their dreams, their aspirations, their guiding lights. So we went about this. Two first-year teachers, and the veteran. We got an Catholic Academy grade school, not just grade school teacher, but an administrator. And then we got one young lady teaching math in the Interborough School District, a Delco. We got to bring out Delco all the time here. And then one autistic support in the Lower Merion School District. And you can't say Lower Merion School District without saying the home of the great late Kobe Bryant. So we want to welcome Chris Jeffries, Vice Principal at St. Aloysius Academy, Morgan Haney, Interborough School District, first-year teacher, and Julia Haney, our twin, Lower Merion School District. Everybody, welcome to Make a Difference, and thank you, because each of you are making a difference.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Chris, take us through. How'd you end up at St. Aloysius? What was your path?
So I studied education in college. It was always something I wanted to pursue. And I actually started out at St. Catherine's grade school in Wayne. So I've always been in Catholic education. I was a Catholic educated kid. I went to St. Pat's in Malvern and then Bishop Shanahan. And when I got out of college and wanted to get into teaching, it was where my path led me. I had some great mentors there and moved on to St. Aloysius Academy after a couple of years. I was everything from a 5th grade math teacher to an 8th grade social studies teacher and everything in between. And I've really settled on that middle school area for most of my career. And it's been a godsend. I've had really great support from my community, from my family, and I landed in an awesome school.
Morgan Interborough, how and why?
I've always wanted to be a middle school math teacher. I graduated from Westchester University and I found a job and I decided to stay in Delco.
And Julia, you're like, you're a mainliner now. You're a mainliner at Lower Merion. Your path.
I was kind of the opposite end of most teachers. I said my whole life growing up I did not want to be a teacher, and I decided senior year of high school, okay, let's try it. Went to college, majoring in special ed and elementary ed, obtaining an autism spectrum disorders endorsement certificate. Then I ended up doing a 1-year internship as a reading specialist. And I knew my heart was in autistic support. So really just applying to any district that had an opening for autistic support, hoping for that, and then found a district that I've loved so far.
Well, we can't go much deeper into this because it just hit me, to be honest with you. And I do have these things scripted out. But Chris, mother is an educator. Julia and Morgan, truth be told, are my nieces, your cousins. Your mother is a long time. The influence of your mom, Julia, on you.
That's the thing, was I grew up with her and she's always been an amazing mom. So, of course, all of her students were going to love her. It was no surprise. I thought that was just because, she was a great human. And then I was one of those people who school was super easy for me. I had that love I needed at home. Not that I didn't have great teachers, I did, but I didn't think I realized the impact I had on them they had on me until I was kind of on the outside looking in. I was in a program where I got to see actually a first year teacher in her classroom in a kindergarten classroom. So watching her and the impact she made and the helpers, and when I got to be there, then I was like, oh, okay. It makes sense now.
Chris, your mom, Miss Villa Maria, let's call it the way it is, influence on you.
Yeah, I think a similar story, right? I didn't realize how lucky I had it until, I come from a big family, and with a mother like I had, she just kind of always was the one in charge. She could always run a room. She could always run an event. And I didn't realize how naturally teaching came to her. And when I came of age and started to get into it myself, I find myself doing the same things. I'm a terrible spectator. I end up trying to take charge. I end up trying to lead discussions or lead the activity because it was taught to me at such a young age, and I had such a great teacher in doing it. My mother is a very natural educator and a natural leader, and being able to follow that was really easy for me. And I really took to it from a young age and walked into it as an adult willingly.
Morgan, brag about your mom.
I would say one thing I always remembered is her influence on students with giving them the basic essentials that they need to come to class and be able to learn. And I knew I struggled in middle school, and I wanted to be a teacher like her that is giving those essentials to middle schoolers that just need someone there to support them.
All right, Morgan, now take us through this interview process, this job search for people out there that are even teachers who are still looking to get in to their first door. They want to make a difference, but there are people out there searching for opportunities. What was the interview process like for you?
It was a lot. Every single day I would go on, look at every school district's website, see what was posted, what I could apply for. Then the application takes, I would say, over 20 minutes to put all your information in. You have to repeat everything. Then from there, it's waiting and hoping that you can get a first round interview. And that looks different from all different districts. I've had to go in for my first round interview, or I've done a 5-minute Zoom where I did a quick little interview. And one school district, I recorded myself. Then it's again waiting. And I know Julia had a longer process than me. I had a demo lesson where I had to go into a classroom with a few students, and I was in during the summer. So these kids volunteered their time to come in and see, is this teacher going to fit into our school district, and show that I had to show a room full of 5 kids and 6 or 7 teachers that I could teach and that I was made for their school district.
And Julia, so you get this opportunity in Lower Merion. What's your prep been like? Like, has it been every single day you're prepping for these students to arrive? Was there a formula given to you by the school to say, these are certain meeting points that we're going to have? Summer prep.
Yeah, it's been a lot, but I've definitely felt supported through all of it, especially with special education. I have a caseload of 11 students, all with a diagnosis of autism, and then some have additional diagnoses. So I'm in charge of all their legal documents, making sure we're in compliance, giving them what they need. So it's been a lot of just setting up the meetings, talking with the other teachers, making sure that they understand this document and they have what they need to set the student up for success. So it's been a long process of just really making sure I'm aware of the variety of needs of my students and making sure as a team that we are prepared to do the best we can for these students.
And I want to take Chris in that area. Chris, as as an administrator, could you reflect and advise first year teachers? Has there been something that, man, this is gold? I've given my first year teachers at St. Aloysius, or I had these two willing first year teachers listening to you right now. What is it from an administrator's point of view that the summer and the preparation and the process, the interview process, how would you help a first year teacher with that?
I think my best advice for that would be trust your training, right? You guys both sound so very prepared and you've done everything. You know, demo lessons are not easy to walk in summer and do that. You know, an 11 kid caseload for autism support is a lot, and it's a big team that you're working with. You know, you're not in this alone. Trust your training. And when you're ready to start and the kids start coming in, the bell rings and the first day really happens, you know, have a routine and stick with your routine. I think some of the biggest mistakes new teachers make are trying to make friends with kids or trying to put yourself on their level. And it's really easy to do because the kids will relate to you faster. But in the long run, it hurts your ability to teach them. You know, kids like rules as much as they say they don't. When you have hard and fast rules and you can stick with them, the kids learn and trust you way better and way longer. You know, especially if you're in, you know, special ed type program. Usually you're with those kids for more than 1 year, sometimes more than 2 or 3 years, and you travel with them. They will appreciate and they will gravitate towards a stronger hand. When they know they can rely on your system and your rules, they will learn better. And that may be a little struggle at first, but in the long run, it's best for all.
Wow. All right, Chris, switching gears here a little bit. What's our biggest need in schools today?
I think right now, some of the biggest needs in education is a better partnership between parents and children and teachers. I think we've gotten away from always trusting the teacher. You know, when I was a little kid, teacher called home and said they're having a problem with little Chris. My parents would not have batted an eye. Of course, it was Chris's problem. And unfortunately, in today's world, teachers aren't always given that benefit of the doubt, and kids are coddled a little more. And I think some of what you're talking about in that cold opening of parents as well as teachers, have an open mind, always be listening, you know, be willing to be taught and as well as teach someone else. You know, I think we really need in our society today to be more open to criticism. Teachers, parents, children, it's okay to fail. I think you learn more from failure. I think sometimes we're trying to make sure every kid is an A student, and that's not necessarily the case. There's nothing wrong with trying your best, but your grade not being an A. We preach to coach your effort, and we want you to try your best. Whatever the outcome after that is acceptable as long as you're putting your best foot forward. And I think sometimes that message can get lost. In this day and age, kids are really held up to try and be the greatest at everything they've ever done. And it can be a hard message sometimes to get through, that your best effort is a good enough approach.
So Morgan, teaching is going to go beyond the classroom, but your first year, are you going to get involved in other things in the school? Have they asked you about getting involved? And is it something that interests you to get involved in the whole school community?
I have already signed up for 2 of our PBIS committees to help out. That's on the teacher side. I'm looking into some supplementals and seeing what's available, but trying not to put too much on my plate where I can't handle inside the classroom. So I'm going to see a balance and see what I can do and what my schedule will allow me to do. But I have those 2 committees that I know I will be able to fit into my schedule and work through.
So Julia, now balancing that, you have all of this, you're going to have 11 different case studies going on, right? How are you going to take care of yourself?
Good question. Because that is something even the district has talked extensively about already. I think just the little things. My principal actually came to the new teacher orientation, and her advice was find your friends, find your people, and make time to just sit down. Like she said, 3 days a week at least. Sit down with those people, have lunch, talk about things that aren't school related, give yourself a break from, like, of course, we all love our students. That's what we want to talk about. And I think most teachers are natural problem solvers, so we're always trying to bounce off of each other. But at some points, you do need to turn your brain off and just give yourself a minute away from that.
Chris, involvement in other activities and more of the, that's the wrong word, but more the school community as a whole, has it helped you be a better classroom teacher and a better administrator because you are involved?
Yeah, I think, and my situation is a little more unique than larger public schools like these girls are at. But I think in certainly the smaller school communities, everybody wears more than one hat. The soccer coach is also your science teacher, and the guy who helps out at lunch is also running the cross country team. So I think it does help to get to know these children in a more well-rounded way. I think sometimes you see a different side of them outside of the classroom. They can let their guard down a little when they're not defensive about what's for homework, or you gave them a bad grade or something like that, and you get to see a different side of people. And I would say that extends beyond the children and into the parents as well. The people who volunteer at the school and who get involved in coach teams and different things, getting to see them in a different plane is also really helpful. It's created some great friendships and things like that, and I think it builds a stronger community as a whole.
So Morgan, I want you to go back. It's not that long ago. You're at Westchester and you did so remarkably well in your coursework. What have you faced that wasn't in the Westchester plan or the Westchester guide or in the coursework that you did? What have you faced to date that, man, I didn't know this was coming?
I feel like they did warn us, but setting up and getting prepared. Every day I've been going in all this week, and I still at the end of the day, I've done so much, and I feel like I have 10 more things I have to do that were not there at the beginning of the day. Feeling like there's just a lot going on. And I do have a great support team at my school where I can just be like, oh, do you have this that I can use? And they just send it my way.
All right. And Julia, you worked at Coopertown last year, right?
Yep.
What did you learn from one student that you're going to take forward to Black Rock this year? What did you learn from a student? We talked about students and teachers in the beginning of this, and these young people who are pupils can be teachers. What'd you learn from one student that you could take forward?
I would say that each day the priorities are not going to be the same. I was a reading specialist. The student I'm thinking of was a kindergarten student, and I remember going to pick her up from kindergarten, and I was like, okay, this student's a little off. Let's keep up the routine, see if we can, with the routine that we usually do, we can push through it. And we got to my room, sat down at the table, and I was like, this is not gonna be a day where we're running through our letters, doing our activities. It was a day where she was very upset about something very valid, and that was our focus for the day, was getting through that, making sure she knew who in the school that students could go to for things like this. And she's a kindergarten student, so that's a lot to go and talk to these big adults by yourself, especially ones you've met maybe once or twice. So I just let her know that when she needs me, I'll help her out, and I can help her talk to these adults, make sure she gets the support she needs. But on days like that, if their mind's somewhere else, the priorities are going to be different. So just making sure you're flexible, ready to be and do whatever that student needs you for that specific day.
Chris, your first faculty meeting, everybody's gathered. What's the message going to be? How are we going to lift up our teachers?
Yeah, so I really just did this in the last few days. So my students actually started yesterday. So we did all those meetings last week. And the theme of our the theme of our school year this year was starfish. I'll give credit to my principal, Sister Margaret. There's a story of a kid who comes along the beach and there's thousands of starfish washed up upon the shore. And there's one child just throwing starfish back into the ocean. And the guy comes down and says, you can't possibly fix this problem. There's all these starfish down here. He said, I can make a difference to that one starfish. And I threw him back. Right. So every little bit helps. Every little bit counts. And just trying to keep up your energy, to begin the school year, when you have new teachers coming in and there's always new students coming in, you want everyone to be greeted and feel that same kind of excitement and fun for the start of a year. So that's always our big push when we start in late August, early September, as we get close to Labor Day. And even in the last 2 days, the energy in a building when everybody's in for the first time is just electric, and it's so much fun. No matter how many years you do it, you'll still get butterflies in your stomach as those first days approach. And it's a great feeling, and we have a lot of fun with it.
Chris, what does a successful school year look like at St. Aloysius? We're going to reconvene everybody, and it's going to be June 1st. What's that successful year look like for you?
I think we really try and push the message at our school that you're becoming a better person every day. Not everyone's going to be the greatest math student. Not everyone's going to go on to be rocket scientists, but you can leave the school better than you found it. And if you can really push all of your students to just try and get that little bit better every day, take something new every day. You don't have to take everything, but if you're pushing forward, when we get back together in June and everybody turns around and says, what have we accomplished? And you can say that I've made a friend, or, that was the best Christmas play we ever had, or that was, the best fundraiser we ever did, then that's a success. Take success where you can find it and don't be greedy.
No question. All right, Julia, we'll put you on the spot. You have an expert on here with you. Chris has done this for a lot of years, different setting than you're in. What's one thing on your mind that you would ask Chris as an administrator? First year teacher to an administrator.
I have a lot of questions that I could ask. I feel like the past 2 weeks, all I've been doing is finding different people to ask questions. But probably just, what can I do to set myself up for success? The thing I'm probably most worried about is the parent relationships. So how do you go about facilitating those?
I think my best advice for that is to really be very open in your lines of communication. Every school district has ways that they want you guys doing that, whether that's regular emails or newsletters, however you do it. But I tell all of my teachers this: try and reach out in a positive fashion on a regular basis individually. When a parent hears from you about one child's small victory, then they really can take that. When you give them bad news or you give them much larger news, it comes across in a whole different fashion if you already have a relationship with them. So if you can, over the first couple of months of school, reach out individually to a couple of these with small victories. He had a great day at the reading table today. She had an awesome day in the lunch line and she was super polite. Small victories, when parents can hear those kinds of messages, go a really long way in opening lines of dialogue.
Wow.
Thank you.
All right, Morgan, your turn. Ask the expert. You got Chris there.
The one thing I thought is, and this doesn't have to be you, but how would you want first year teachers to get involved to make the school better?
Wow.
I heard what you said about the support system at your school, and I think that's great that you're going to join some clubs and things. I think we always worry about burnout with new teachers, that they try and volunteer for so many things. I never would say don't volunteer. I think it's fantastic. Put yourself out there and good things will happen. But I think my best advice for that is leave work at work. Do what you can when you're there. And then when you leave work, have some downtime, watch the Phillies, enjoy your sister, spend time with family. But you have to be able to separate what you're doing at work and what you're doing at school, at home. And that will lead to a lot healthier work-life balance where you can be involved in things and have some fun, but it doesn't dominate your life.
Thank you. That's one goal of mine this year, is to leave everything at work and do no work at home. That's what's next, though.
Yes.
All right, Julia. On this podcast,
plan.
we always ask this question at the end. Who's made a difference in your life?
Lots of people. Since we're on the topic of education, I'll go with an educator. It would be my mentor from one of my student teaching placements. And having a student teacher is difficult. You are giving up the reins to someone who is not even certified in what they're doing yet. Sure, you have, they have the years of experience in college, but like, it was my first time in a classroom. They had no idea when they were taking me on if I was going to be good or not. And I just remember like the patience and the willingness to help. Again, I love to learn. I love to ask questions. So I would ask a million questions a day, even things that didn't really particularly pertain to that day. And she was just ready to answer those questions. If she didn't have an answer to the question, she would go and help me find someone who did. So, and I think that goes for a lot of educators, just their willingness to help. I've never felt unsupported in a school. There's always great people around to ask questions. So that's great.
All right, Morgan, who's made that difference in your life?
Since we already talked about my mom, the next person I would go is my 8th grade math teacher, who made me become, I already knew I wanted to teach, but that was the year that, as a student that struggled in school, he showed me that I was able to learn, and I just needed to apply the way I learned to all my other classes, and showed me that math can be fun. And now I'm sitting here as a math teacher, and if I was in my students in a 7th grade classroom, I would not have thought that I would end up being a math teacher until he taught me that I can enjoy math, but in a different way than it's been taught to me.
So, Chris, who's made that difference in Chris's life?
My mom would have been top of the list, but we've already discussed her, so I'll throw my wife in there. I think as a young teacher and a young professional, you have so much going on in your life, and choosing the right partner that is supportive and in it for the right reasons, and there to help you and for you to help each other is all the difference in the world. When you talk about leaving work at work and being able to come home to a family unit that has been so wonderful, I could not have gotten where I was without the support.
Oh. Well, for the three of you, I had this vision and this idea. This blew that away. Like the love of teaching, which then means the love of the kids, is so evident. And particularly with what has gone on, we'll air this after all this madness is going on. We needed an oasis. You provided that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All year long, all careers long. Please go make a difference. You really matter.
Thank you guys so
you
much
very
for
much.
joining us. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was really good.
I mean, the dynamic there with the veterans versus the newbies, and just kind of seeing them get to interact, and you could tell they all kind of had the same things in mind, like that teacher mindset. Really ecstatic in all of them, where they were like, well, I have a million things I could ask you. They're constantly trying to learn themselves, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, but it felt like they kind of knew exactly what they expect out of each other, and how to mold kids and everything like that. I just it's impressive.
And I think that there's a place in this conversation for a first year truck driver or bank executive or whatever it would be, that whole process of, and I love the one, can't be afraid to ask. Asking for help is not a weakness, it's a strength. We've talked about that before. But I was delighted. That was just so, thank you to Chris and to Morgan and to Julia. You know, and they're up late. They're up late on a school night. We won't show it late so that everybody can enjoy
this is
it.
the latest we've ever done the
This is
podcast for
the
sure,
latest
because
we've ever
well,
been.
you know,
Because
can't get them during the day.
I had to be some places.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had to be some places. They
That's
had
more
they had
important.
classrooms to teach.
More important.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. But yeah, you might have been around the block a little bit this past week.
Yeah, I was at the Kathy Miller Rock the Dock in Wildwood. What are they doing? Crushing cancer. And everybody out there knows, if you're crushing cancer, count me in. I'll be there in one way, shape, or form. And then a shout out to Dr. Tina Kane at Marple Newtown, Dr. Bob Fizzicara, and Dr. Sam Lee, Haddon Township and Ben Salem. Respectfully, they invited me in to speak to their staff, and I am just so thankful because I get more than I give. And I do give. I give everything that I have in these presentations. If there's somebody out there that thinks that I can help, please. It's not just make a difference as a title. It's make a difference right here, saying I can, I will, and I must make the difference. I got invited by the Phillies to strike out the stigma with Dr. Dina Nobiles, Antonio Cordero, Lauren Gibson, wonder MLB ambassador, but more than that, All-American softball player at Oklahoma, a mom, national champ at Oklahoma, and then Jameer Nelson. We got to speak about mental wellness in our student athletes. What are we looking for? How can we help? I was blown away with the depth that the Phillies go to take care of all of their people. And then, as we approached our podcast, I was invited by Charlie Wallace, the Bear Essentials podcast. Wonderful conversation, thought-provoking questions. Got to spend time with him. And then Glenn Phillips, Obstructed View. He kind of looks at Philly sports from a Delco perspective. Great catching up with him and great questions. And other than that, I relaxed.
Other than that, you relaxed. I think you might have missed some stuff along the way there. I mean, was there anything maybe you were forgetting? I can't even remember based on. I'd have to run the tape back from last week, but you got to take the Phil's game in as well, which is.
Got to take in the Phil's game, and that was quite an experience. Thank you to John Middleton, the owner, allowing some of my family and I to be there. And then we got to get started. You know, the juices are flowing. Labor Day's coming, and I will be in Cherry Hill speaking with that school district. The Pause podcast. Now, here's a little bit different. We do mine from home, and I thought this would be a Zoom, and they said, no. You're going to come to our house in Aston. They've got sandwiches lined up. They have sponsors lined up. So the Pause, St. James graduates who are very, very ecstatic about all of the guests that they had. And I'm just going to add to that list many that we've had. I'm going to be visit with David Kelleher and David Dodge Jeep. I have a chance to get some work done on the car, but to visit with them because I'm really interested in how he sets up his community service that we know about. You know what? I'm getting a flu shot and a COVID shot. I'm not going to get there, but Kennedy and his crew, I'm good. Okay. I got me. All right. And then we're going to prep. We're going to prep for September and October podcast. And any suggestions? Any suggestions? We got a monster. We got a Hall of Famer next week, and then a Hall of Famer the week after that. But we're kind of looking and searching. We're going back into education on September the 15th. And we want to get into the community September 22nd. But beyond there, as we get this thing rolling again, we really want to be there to talk with all of you and to, again, make a difference. For those of you that reach out, thank you, thank you, thank you. Those that have suggestions, we appreciate it. And I am delighted that, again, we were able to incorporate family in this podcast.
It's the best part about it, man. I think once November hits, though, we're going hoops heavy again.
No,
that's inevitable.
I'm agreeing with you, and I actually have some guys lined up already that I've talked to about. Let's find out what Matt Painter really thinks, and Andy Katz, and I'm not name dropping, but that's where we want to go. But I have to finish up with hearts ache that young people, children, went to school and 2 of them didn't get home. We have to do better. We just have to do better. And the idea that the principal, in that time of great anguish, would identify his staff as heroes. Yeah. And heroes are everywhere. So go out there, be heroic. And if it's lifting up a young person, then so much better at this time. Hug your loved ones always. So to you, job well done again.
I want to give a special thank you to Chris Jeffries and Morgan and Julia Haney once again for joining us. An awesome perspective from the teachers as they get this year started. Obviously, so much of what probably people assume is we're going to talk about the hoops aspect, the young student athletes getting ready for basketball season, going through camps and everything like that. But the other half of that is, what are they doing in the classroom? How are they staying on the court? And those heroes that we had on today were a perfect example of the ones who are getting the kids ready to excel both on and off the court. We have an awesome guest lined up for next week.
You're going to be geeked out.
Yeah, sure. I will say it's going to be, let's put it this way. There's a big Thursday night football game that's going to kick off the season. And we'll just say it kind of floats around in that orbit. And that's of course, what we'll leave it at. If you want to get in touch with Phil to help him make a difference with his Make a Difference campaign, head on over to pnjmakeadifference.com. That is where Phil is making a difference on the court, off the court, in the classroom, in the workplace, wherever he feels he can. Go to pnjmakeadifference.com. Tell your story to Phil. Get in touch with him, and that is where he can hopefully help you make a difference in this greater Philadelphia community. We are at Make a Difference Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, at Make a Diff Pod on X. Make a Difference with Phil Martelli on Facebook. If you are watching on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple, or another podcast platform, please go ahead and give us that 5-star rating. If you're looking for that daily Martelli Minute, it is on Instagram at Phil_Martelli every morning at 6:30 a.m. What a fantastic show. And we pulled it off with quite a crew here. 3 guests. That's a new record for us.
That's a record for us.
Yeah. So
without technical difficulties, that was very well done.
Pretty clean.
So again,
pretty clean.
Pat yourself on the back on that one.
Not as clean as the Phils have been in this series with the Mets, but I don't know if I should have even brought it up.
I can't right now.
Yeah.
I can't.
No.
I need a few moments.
Let's go with just a tentative go Phils here.
Go Phils.
Go Phils.